Hello, and welcome to the Ferret Business Podcast. I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, aka Yemmy, aka DJ Yemmy. And with me today is a live streamer video maker on YouTube who has gotten that sweet 4K views? It's
4K?
Depraved Slasher. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Now, Yemmy, I did notice you stopped doing your freaking before DJ Yemmy.
I didn't stop doing it. I just forgot to do it this time. Calling me out on my own podcast. All right. Well, thanks for coming, Depraved. We'll see you next time. I just forgot this time. It's been a long work day. You know, that's how it goes. And speaking of work, I hear you are switching jobs.
I am. I am actually going to be in an office for the first time in about 5 years. I'm so excited.
So what? I mean, if you can say, what happened at the last job? I heard you said something about getting fired.
So I was with Target, and technically it was the end of the season, and because I was technically seasonal, and it was the end of the season, so they let a bunch of people go. But admittedly, they probably didn't try to keep me just because, like, my attendance was not that great.
Oops.
Hard to have a good attendance when you come home barely being able to move after 12 hours of lifting 60-pound boxes constantly all day.
Oh, so you were truck duty.
Yes.
Yeah, I worked third shift truck at Kohl's back in the day.
The me of about 10 years ago would have had no problem doing it, but the me of today was not taking it very well.
Yeah. Well, back then when I was younger, of course, it was just after high school, and I was in college, and the reason I didn't stick with it, one, it was part-time. Third shift part-time never works. If this is to anyone listening, if you are offered part-time third shift, don't take it. Either do full-time or just don't do it, because it was awful. And I would go to bed at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would have to wake up at 12 for my first class at college. And I was like, no, this, after 3 months, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 was coming out, and I was like, you know what, I'm done with this job. So I didn't show up. And
now the real reason comes through is Call of Duty.
It was sorta, yeah. I couldn't miss the midnight release of Modern Warfare 3. What are you kidding?
I don't blame you. That's a great game, actually.
True story, though. Not gonna lie, true story. So the new job, office job. Any deets you can give us?
I'm going to be working nights, which is going to work out great working in an office. I actually found out once I get fully trained, I'm going to be the only person that's going to be there after about 7 p.m.
Ooh.
Which works for me because I'll be able to, even if I'm not necessarily watching, the people that I love to watch stream, I'll be able to have them up supporting them and check in on them in between whatever it is that I'm doing. Thankfully, I have good time management, and that's not something I'm going to get lost in, because I know that's usually a worry for people that get into office positions and are able to do things like that. But yeah, it's going to be Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day, which is exactly what I wanted. As much as I like working 10-hour shifts and having 3 days off a week, I'd rather have those extra couple of hours a day. It's because you just end up spending that first entire day off sleeping anyways.
Right. That's true. So is it going to mess around with your stream times, or not really?
It will. Especially with how it coincides with my girlfriend's schedule. I'm not going to be streaming in the afternoons probably near as much as I was. I'm probably going to be more streaming early morning.
Oh, early morning. Oof.
Yeah. It'll be different.
A little bit of a change there, yeah.
I'm going to play around with it and test different things to see what works better.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Stream while you're at work at the.
Oh, that would be amazing too. Here's
my,
a live vlog, everybody.
Yeah. Here's my desktop. Me inputting numbers into a program. 50K views, 50,000 subscribers right away.
Mostly from competitors.
So, let's talk about your YouTube channel. Of course, we've kind of been talking about it a little bit, but where did the name Depraved Slasher come from?
So, when I started this, I was originally not even planning on streaming and doing video starting off. I was and I wasn't. So my brother was actually looking to get into it. Now, this is something I've been wanting to do since a teenager. I mean, any of us that grew up playing video games, all of us have dreamed at some point, man, I would love to make a living just being able to play video games.
Right.
And anybody that says different is straight up lying. But it's one of those things where I didn't have the support from the family and relationships and stuff. So like I never really had the time, and nobody was really pushing me to, hey, you know, run for it, chase it. And which is kind of depressing because I think back now, if I'd have started this 10, 15 years ago, where would I be now? But you know, I try not to dwell too much on that. So fast forward, my brother wants to do it, and I was living with my brother at the time, and he had decided that, hey, his name was like DJ Solid Sound or something like that, Digital Phantom Solid Sound, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he had started playing Dead by Daylight on the PC when it first came out and was telling me about it. And when it first came out on PC, there were talks of Friday the 13th, the game, and what it was going to be all about. And I started reading up on it and showing him that, and he actually thought that was going to be a lot cooler than what Dead by Daylight is, as did I, especially with all the different kills in it. So Friday the 13th finally comes out, and I play with my brother, and I was using an old screen name on the Xbox. And as we're sitting there playing, at the end of the stream, my brother's like, dude, you need to change your name. He's like the name you have really doesn't like fit you. I mean, because the name I had one of my names in my actual name in it. He was like, you need to come up with something that's actually cooler. So I was like, you know, you're probably right. So what I did was I went onto my Xbox and went to do the name change thing, which is like $10.
Yeah.
And
actually, I actually just recently did it because I picked up Sea of Thieves for the computer, and it was using my old screen name, which was like Big Scary Wolf or something like that. I made it when I was a kid, you know? So I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to just drop the coinage to change it.
Right? So I pay the money, and I start cycling through, and I definitely wanted something horror-inspired because aside from gaming and my kids, of course, horror is my biggest interest. Like, I love horror movies. I could sit here and tell you how many people died in each Nightmare on Elm Street movie, how they died. I could tell you that the address to the actual Nightmare house is 1428 Elm Street. And mostly I know a lot about Nightmare on Elm Street trivia. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. But it's not just that. Like, any 80s, 90s slasher series, I love the Friday the 13th, the Halloweens.
So, real quick, who has the highest kill count out of all the villains in these movies? Gotcha.
You know, honestly, probably after the new Halloween movie, I would almost say it's probably Michael.
You think so?
I think so, because he killed like 10 to 12 people in the new Halloween movie.
Well, what about the Saw films?
That's about 5-6 people in the movie, I guess, too. But that's not really like an 80s, 90s slasher. I do love them, though.
Oh, you're talking about old school ones.
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at your banner and it has the jigsaw on it, so I was just figuring.
Actually, that was made for me by a friend, the person who initially inspired me to actually start streaming. But
anyways,
yeah, as we digress. All that said and done, I'm sitting there and I'm putting in like different names over and over again, and every one I put in is like, this is taken, that's taken, this is taken, and this is where I started to realize this is going to be a lot harder than than it seems. So I start going through, and finally, it just popped in my head. I was like, Depraved Slasher, will that work? And I typed it in, and it's like, this name's available. And I was like, I guess we're running with it, because it's the first one in like 30 names that actually worked.
What were some of the other ones you tried doing?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, it's probably been so long.
I actually got to the point where it got to be completely off the wall. I think I tried like something silly like Crazy Killer or something like that. Now, granted, after all this is said and done, I probably should have went with a different name because Depraved Slasher is really hard to market to people. Like, hey, I'm really a great guy. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, except I hold a bloody knife in my hand while I'm streaming, you know?
Right? But yeah, and that's how I fell on the name. Once I did that, now obviously you can't change your PSN name yet.
Right.
And apparently even when you can, it's going to mess a lot of things up. So I wasn't able to change my PSN name, but then I like changed my Steam name to Depraved Slasher, my YouTube name, because I've had a YouTube account since YouTube first came out. I just started doing videos after I changed my name. Like I said, my Steam name. There was something else too, but everything I do now is Depraved Slasher. Another side story to that. Actually, my name on my Gmail account is Depraved Slasher. And I did that for YouTube, and that's kind of probably screwed me out of even like some jobs when I email them.
Oh.
Because it probably comes over as email by Depraved Slasher, and they're like, yeah, we're going to slide this over to the no.
Well, you can make a Gmail account for free, right?
Oh, I know. I need to make a new one specifically for
yeah, you probably should. I remember my old friend from high school. He was applying for jobs after college, and he was like, yeah, my Gmail, or he had like an AOL account or some stupid shit. Oh, Yahoo. That's what it was. And he's like, yeah, I made this email back when I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops, and it's Dragunov No Scope 360 at, yahoo.com. And
really?
He was trying to apply to places with that email, and I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. You have to explain that to them when you go to the job interview, like, okay, so what is a Dragunov?
Right. Well, what's funny is I've never been asked about my actual email address, because my email address is IPI Blyce, and Blyce is actually my last name, which is what most of all of my things are like. And what's funny is I've never really hid who I am. I've had no problem with people trying to search me. I've never came out and said, "Hey, come find me."
Come find me.
But there's breadcrumbs everywhere. Like everybody that usually is in chats with me knows my name's Nick. Blyce is on almost all of my things, and I always told people, I was like, if you guys pay really close attention, you can find me. I'm not hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And but so my email address is actually IPI Blyce, and what's funny is I've actually never been asked from anybody that's gotten an application from me or anything like that what that stands for, which surprises me, because I always heard they usually do if they check that and then ask about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which the IPI actually stands for Indie Paranormal Investigations, because it was an email I actually created originally because I was going to get into paranormal investigating, which that fell through drastically.
Oh. Well, hey, that's cool. Actually, I remember you commented on the Damn It Jim interview, which was episode number 70, I believe. And you were saying that you were really into that paranormal activity as well, and you wanted to give a few comments on ghosts.
Ah, man, yes, I have stories, man. Stories.
You have story. Oh, I'm ready. I got my hot cocoa. I'm ready.
So the whole indie paranormal investigations thing started with me and one of my best friends, because he was really into it, and we decided we were going to do it, and that's the name we came up with after Googling every indie-based paranormal investigating thing to make sure we didn't have the same name. And we'd planned on taking our tax checks and spending our tax checks on equipment. And like, I had a kid, he had a kid. Both of us combined, that's probably close to $8,000 that we were going to be able to just drop into equipment. I'm glad we didn't do that. But so we started talking, and at the time, I was driving this old beat up Lincoln. It's just an old Lincoln, one of the old box cars. I don't remember what type of Lincoln it was. LeSabre?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I have no clue.
But it was like an old boat of a car, like from the 80s, early 90s. And the radio had the old dial turn radio in it, and it was so messed up that it would create static noise. It would never sit on one radio station for too long, and it would just start cycling. And for those people that actually follow paranormal investigating, there are actually boxes they call spirit boxes you can go out and buy, which sends out static, or it's white. They call it white noise, but it's just a static noise for ghosts to be able to send or spirits to be able to send their voices through. And after me and him had stayed after work and talked for a couple hours about it, I drove home, and I only lived probably 6-minute drive from home, depending on the lights. Mm-hmm. And as I'm turning out, my radio starts cycling, and it's pulling up the white noise, and it just popped in my head after watching so many paranormal investigation shows and things of that nature. I was like, well, hey, why don't I give this a go. See if I could talk to spirits on my way home. That'd be interesting. So I actually, the static started going, and I was like, "Are there any spirits trying to talk to me?" And I didn't get a response. So I was like, "All right, And the radio stopped on a radio station and started playing whatever song on whatever station it decided it wanted to play on.
Mm-hmm.
So then I start driving and it starts cycling again. I was like, well, I'll give it another go. So again, I said, is there anybody trying to reach me? Is there any spirit out there trying to get a hold of me to let me know something? And all of a sudden through the radio, I actually heard the word yes. And I was like, okay. I was kind of shocked, like not scared, but shocked. Like I didn't actually expect it to work. So I was like, okay, what is it you were trying to tell me? Like, what are you trying to let me know? And clear as day through the radio, it says, I just wanted to let you know that, and then it trailed off. It didn't say anything else.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. And afterwards it stopped on another radio station where it was just playing whatever song, and I got home by then and it stopped cycling. But yeah, that was definitely the craziest thing that has ever happened to me, paranormal wise.
That is insane. So you're a true believer then, like you're 100% ghosts are real.
Yes.
What was the genesis of that? What brought you into that? Because obviously the car thing was later down the road.
That is a hard one. A lot of kids grow up believing in ghosts.
And Santa.
And Santa. But I never had the type of family, and I guess it's because it never really came up. A lot of kids' belief in ghosts fades after their parents are like, ghosts aren't real, ghosts aren't real. And I never really had that. And it wasn't until I started reading into it, because it was something that, like, I was watching, like, a paranormal investigation show came on. I think it was the original season of Ghost Hunters. And it was one of those things where I was like, well, and I know most of the shows, a lot of the stuff is faked, and I get that. And I understand why they do it. I don't think everything that they do is faked, but I do think a lot of it is, and they do it for viewing, for ratings, and it sucks.
Yeah, just like the Sasquatch shows, they got to build something up, and then it's really just nothing.
Right. But I understand why they do it. And usually once it comes out that they do fake their stuff, and it always does, regardless of which show it is. Somebody somewhere will just come up like, hey, we were fucking with you guys. A lot of this stuff didn't actually happen.
Right.
But, so I'm sitting there, and I was watching it, and I was like, this is interesting. So I went out and bought a couple of books on paranormal investigating, because I didn't know it was a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew there were people that believed in ghosts, but I didn't know there were people that actually went out and tried to find them. And that's what picked up my interest in it. And at the time, my ex-wife was watching it, and she was interested in it. And then she didn't want me to do the paranormal investigating thing, which I think is why it initially fell through. I got to investigate one house. And then she got all bent out of shape. She's like, I don't want you bringing anything home. And
yes, the lingering spirits.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really a thing that can happen, though? Like, you can bring, like, not ectoplasm. I was gonna say ectoplasm, but can you actually bring something home with you from these experiments?
I think it depends on how open you are and how susceptible you are to it. I think there's some people that go out and really don't believe to begin with. And don't get me wrong, anybody that doesn't believe that is watching this, I'm not going to sit here and argue you to death about it. I take this on the same level as religion and politics. I will respect you regardless of your opinion. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where, like, I do feel if you're open and you're susceptible, it's easy for something to latch onto you and follow you. Like, Ed and Lorraine Warren have a museum of things that they've collected in their paranormal investigating days, which I would love to visit that museum.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff that they have supposedly has stuff attached to it as well. And I think people can be attached to just as easily as things can. So. Yeah,
there's actually an old lighthouse near me. It's called I don't want to get the name. People track me down, but
we're all gonna find Yemmy.
There's apparently there's a ghost cat that lives there, and they actually they found a mummified, kind of like a mummified cat that was in a vent. And it was there for years and years, and it was just kind of it was dead in there, and apparently they still have a cat walking around sometimes, which I find kind of interesting, but I also think it's kind of partly just a gimmick to get people interested in and being like, oh, well, maybe there is something.
Oh, I think a lot, especially with the TV shows, and you always watch them. I don't know how many shows you've watched or how many different shows you've watched, but these TV shows, they're interesting to me and they make me mad at the same time because I think a lot of it, the places aren't actually haunted. And I think it's just people trying to get like, hey, if we go on this TV show and tell people we're haunted, we're going to start bringing in customers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, like me and my girlfriend now we're watching Ghost Adventures, and a lot of people don't like Ghost Adventures. I loved them.
It's a very generic name.
Yeah, but their personalities were amazing to watch, especially like Zach Bagans. He was always like taunting the ghosts, which was always cracked me up. Anyways, the whole crew is just amazing to sit there and watch. But their whole setup was a lot of these ghost hunting people, they'll go in for a few hours, do whatever it is that they do, make a video off of it. But the ghost hunting crew, they would go into a property and be locked down from dusk until dawn. Like they were locked in this location and throughout the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
And the original documentary that they did, which got them a TV show, they did that, and they ended up getting so freaked out that they opened up the second story window of the building they were in and jumped out.
Oh, really? What? Really?
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Which that was a pretty good little documentary. It's on Netflix for anybody interested.
What do you think the most haunted location in America is? Like, do you know?
I think it all depends. I hate having debates about most haunted just because
There's a lot of
I think there's a lot of different experiences people go through. Some people might experience a lot in one place and none in another, and then somebody else might experience a lot in the place that the last person didn't, but nothing in the other place that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, from what I've seen, my favorite place I've watched shows and stuff done about. I love insane asylums, old asylums,
Spooky.
and like I love games set in them too, like horror games that are set in them. I feed off of it.
Even Call of Duty World at War had that asylum part that was just like
Oh yeah,
it was kind of spooky. You know, I can't lie.
And games set in them are nerve wracking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a place I've visited now. I did not actually do an investigation there. It was for a Halloween attraction because I love haunted houses.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, the horror thing. They had an actual haunted house set up there. But one of the places I hear a lot about is what is the name of it? It's an asylum out in Kentucky.
Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Yes.
A bunch of haunted houses came up and they're all like closed. It's like, really?
Yeah, Waverly Hills. I got to walk around in it for the Halloween attraction, which is crazy because there's holes in the floor. So I don't know how that's a safe thing to have people do.
Do you have to sign a waiver before going into that one?
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
But we went now what sucked is when me and my friends went, the one time we went, we were the last car they allowed parked in because we got stuck in road traffic on the way there, and we ended up getting right as they were getting ready to close. And by the time we went through it, most of the actors that were dressed up had decided that they were done for the night, and they were just all chilling outside. So like our walkthroughs were really just kind of like tours of the sanatorium.
Oh boy.
Right.
Still could be kind of cool at least.
But reading up on the stories of all the stuff that apparently goes on there, and really, I mean, a lot of it's the same stories you hear in most asylums, just yelling and screaming, and that you can hear if you go in. Just the history that goes along with asylums in general, like the crazy stuff we did in the name of medicine as human beings, and way back then, is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, everything from lobotomies to electroshock therapy to dipping bodies in ice cold water for hours at a time, just to try and figure out ways to cure ailments. Which I guess lobotomies kind of worked. In a very sadistic and crazy way. Mm-hmm. It just made people basically like zombies and they didn't do anything.
So, let's switch over to horror movies, because I know you said you were a big fan of those, especially the 80s and 90s ones.
Yes.
Quoting you, of course. Do you think that today's movies still have that standard that the 80s and 90s had.
No, they do not.
Are there any that have come out that actually have had that standard, or are they mostly just like, yeah?
Now, I love even today's horror movies for some of the stories that they tell. But as far as the suspense, and it's our fault really as people, because most of us, especially those of us that love horror, grew up watching it so much we're numb to it. Like, most of us aren't going to get scared watching them. Like, there's not a horror movie out there that I can sit here and say today has truly frightened me. Not like the only movie that ever really scared me growing up was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But other than that, like, I can sit here, like, I've watched so many, and like anything ranging from movies where all kills are off screen to the most violent and bloody Rob Zombie-like gory deaths on screen. So it's hard for movies to really it's hard for movies nowadays to really scare its audience because of all the stuff that we've been exposed to growing up. And so I really watch them for the stories at this point. Now, every now and again, and then you have, directors like Wes Craven, where they say, okay, like the way horror has been is no longer scaring people. We need to start pushing the boundaries further to see how far we can push it. So then he does a movie like The Hills Have Eyes, the remake of Hills Have Eyes. And I don't know, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
So The Hills Have Eyes is basically about some tests that were going on in the mountains, nuclear tests, and the people that the military was doing the tests, and they didn't know that there were people that were living out in this desert or this mountainous area. I think it's really just a desert with hills. And so it's mutated all these people, and these people. So as people are like driving through, traveling, doing their touring, and they stop for like gas at a gas station nearby, the gas station clerk directs them to go this way. Right, old classic horror movie trope: go this way, and you'll get to where you need. And really, he's leading them to danger. And so they get there, and like their bus stalls out or something like that, and all of a sudden they start being tormented by these crazy people from the hills that are grown up, deformed and deranged because of the nuclear exposure. But where they really started pushing the boundaries is like there's one scene where they light this lady's dad on fire while he's hanging from a makeshift cross right in front of her. There's another scene, like there's a couple scenes in both movies where I'm going to use the term snuggle struggle because I don't want to use the actual word. But those happen. And at this point, that was Wes Craven trying to make you get that same uncomfortable feeling that most of our parents got watching from the murderous scenes that happened in the 80s, early 80s, late 80s horror flicks. And there were a lot of people that dogged the movie for it. They're like, I can't believe they would go that far. And in my opinion, it's like, well, the whole point of horror movies are to make you feel uneasy.
Right.
And if it really bothered you, if these scenes really bothered you that they did that, then they did their job. That's what they were supposed to do. And I can get why some people don't like them. But like for me, I liked it just because I liked the fact that somebody took the time, took the risk to push those boundaries the way that they did. And rest in peace, Wes Craven, one of my favorite directors.
Well, yeah, I understand completely what you're saying. I'm a little bit of a baby when it comes to horror movies. I still like watching them, like I enjoyed Halloween. I enjoyed Don't Breathe for what it was worth. Hereditary was all right.
I haven't watched Hereditary yet.
But even in movies that aren't scary, like even action movies where there's just a sudden noise, I always jump, and I feel like.
You want to know what jump scares me the most?
Which one?
Turning the corner on a Call of Duty game and there being an enemy right in my face.
Yeah, there you go.
Single player or multiplayer happens all the time.
All the time. Yeah. Hey, speaking of crazy and horrible things, I have a game that I've made here for you, and it's called "Is This a Real Meal?" ? And
It's a real meal.
I've looked up the strangest foods in all of the world, and some of them I've made up myself, and you gotta tell me which ones are real or not. Are you game?
Now, as a precursor, I am game. But I would like to know, the interview you did with Doug with all the dragons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew all of them.
Well, your name's doesn't have dragons in it, so we can't play that game.
I'm usually really good with these games, except Andrew Michael's game. I was totally wrong on almost all of it.
That one was a lot. That one a lot of fun to put together, and this one is too. I really enjoyed this one, putting this one together, which is why I saved it just for you, because I knew you wanted a challenge. So I do have descriptions of all the different words I'm gonna say and all the different things that are on here, and you gotta tell me if it's real or not, and we'll see how you do.
Sounds good. Let's do this.
All right. So the first one, the easiest one that I have right now, real or not, Mississippi Quantum Pie. It's made with flour, Nuka-Cola Quantum, and vodka. It boosts your strength and action points for 4 minutes.
I'm gonna say it's fake.
Yes, that one is fake. That was just a warm-up for you. All right.
Wonderful Fallout reference, though.
Yeah, I looked up video game foods, and that's the first one that came up, and I was like, yeah, we're going to use that for the first one. All right, here we go. We're going into the real ones now. I'm sorry, not
Maybe.
the real ones, but, you know, the...
Maybe.
So this one's called Shirako, and it is sperm sacs of cod or pufferfish which have a custard's taste.
Real.
Oh, yeah, that's real. That is from Japan. Where else would you...
I've heard the name. I never knew what it was, and now I never want to try it, but I heard the name.
So you tell me, if you ever go to Japan, they'd be like, oh, you want the shikaro? You'd be like, no? You wouldn't even want to nibble?
If I go to Japan, I'm sneaking in steaks and hamburgers.
All right, the next one we got is called Jellied Moose Nose, and this is a twice boiled moose nose, literally a moose nose. They remove all the hair and the boogers, and it also has onions and spices mixed in.
I'm gonna say it's real.
Yeah, that one is real, and it's a Canadian hunter delicacy. So
I will say it's real. You confirmed it, because have you ever heard of head cheese?
Yes.
It is the most disgusting looking thing I've ever seen in my life.
All right, this next one might be easy too, because if you've ever watched any shows, it might have come up, but it's called the Century Egg. It's a clay-covered egg with salt, and it sits for a month in that.
I'm going to say it's fake.
No, that one's real.
Oh.
I even set you up for the real thing, because
I thought you were setting me up for it. Like, that's actually why I went fake.
I know. I realized what I said afterwards. I was actually watching The Amazing Race, and they had the century, or it's also known as the 100-year-old egg, and it's literally just like an egg that they put in salt and vinegar, and they just leave it out for like a month or two, and it's like, wow, that sounds awful.
That sounds like some Fear Factor nastiness.
It does.
Oh,
speaking of Fear Factor nastiness, next up we have Wasp Crackers. It's literally a biscuit filled with wasps.
I'm going to say it's fake.
Ooh, that'd be real. And
really?
Another Japanese delicacy.
Japanese are brave.
Just imagine a chocolate chip cookie, just instead of chocolate, there's wasps in that.
Oh, man.
Apparently you can get stung while eating it, and
that's why I thought it was fake. I'm sitting here even thinking to myself, I'm like, who would want? Like, hey, man, this is good, but I'm going to hate the pain. Well, I guess most people would eat Taco Bell. It's a different kind of pain.
Well, you can tell me who would want this. It's called Hinkinkno, and it is a silkworm that is kind of entered through its life cycle, and it's pickled and eaten within 2 weeks' time.
I'm going to go ahead and say real.
Ooh, that is a fake one.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Sounds real. Disgusting.
All right, next one. The Sinner's Sandwich. This is a roast turkey with strawberry jam and a certain kind of breakfast cereal that I'm not allowed to say because of copyright reasons. Mostly sold in Louisiana. Oh, I'm sorry, not Louisiana. Montana. Why did I say Louisiana?
I'm going to say that's real. That actually sounds...
Yeah, too bad that's from a video game.
Is it really?
Yep, it's fake.
Can we make it real? I'm making it real.
Yeah, you go right ahead. Open up your own shop. The Slasher Sinner Sandwich.
What game is it on?
Oh, okay.
So I know what cereal to use.
It was an older one. Yeah, it's on this list. It'll here it is. The center sandwich is from Twin Peaks. Deadly Promotion?
That's a
Premonition? I'm not sure.
Deadly Premonition?
Premonition. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna cut that out. Me stumbling over Premonition.
How did I've played that game too. That makes me mad.
Oh.
That game is terrible, by the way. It's great. It's great, but it's terrible. It's so bad that it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
All right. The next one we got is kangaroo. It's high in protein and low in fat, healthy for Australians.
I'm gonna say this can be a trick question because it's probably legally false, but I can guarantee you people have eaten it, so I'm gonna say true.
It is true, and it is legal to eat kangaroo in Australia. Yeah, it's like I said, it's high in protein, low in fat, so it's a really healthy choice for if you're eating now in Australia. They're in abundance, and a lot of people go, kangaroos, they're just wild animals. Who would want to eat that?
That animal has some kick.
What do you know? There you go. Yeah, you kind of look at them and go, okay, so who would want to eat that? But then you go, okay, I can see why, I guess.
Well, to be fair, at some point, I'm sure that's how every animal that we eat now has come to be. Like, man, who would eat that? And then you try it, and then it just carries on generations.
Who would drink milk out of a cow's udder? Well, long ago, your great-great-great-grandfather...
It tastes nasty. Let's put a little bit of water in it. Yeah. That's good.
All right, we got two more. So the next one's called balut, and this is it's a fertilized duck egg, which has been partially developed, or the embryo has been partially developed inside, and it's eaten raw with salt, chili, and vinegar.
True.
So true that it's disgusting just saying it.
It was on Fear Factor.
Was it? Oh, geez. Well, I didn't know that.
That was an episode.
Would you ever eat balut?
No. And actually, if I remember correctly, Mom would love this fact. I'm pretty sure it's on one of those special edition Fear Factors that had wrestlers from the WWE back then.
Oh, wrestlers. All right. All right, one more. You got a 50-50 chance of getting this correct. All right, your score is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 right and 1, 2, 3, 4 wrong. So you can stay in the positive by getting this right. Are you ready? Anal crisps. They're deep-fried anal muscles of deer and or elk.
I'm going to say false.
That is so false that you got it right. Woo! Congratulations, you are the winner of absolutely nothing.
That's okay because I'm eventually within the next 3 years going to get me a Yemmy sticker.
Ooh. Yeah, available now on redbubble.com. Get yours today. Well, thanks for playing, Depraved. You did very well. Positive score, which was better than Andrew and or Chronos had. I have one more question for you today. Every one of your live streams are titled interactive live stream. Why did you start doing that, and what does it mean? So,
I've gone, and there's actually one person I'm subscribed to that even does this. I've gone to several live streams, and now I know it's also one of the things I eventually want to change. I want to start titling them, but it's hard to come up with a title every day for everything.
That's true.
I've had some videos where I've recorded them, and then I sit there for 15 minutes like, what am I going to call this? But I just named them interactive live streams because I've had some streamers where I've gone on to... I like to do this thing where if none of my friends are on, so like none of the Reapers, none of the Chrono crew, none of... You're not on, I guess technically you're part of the Chrono crew. Just nobody I typically watch is on. I'll go and find streamers that have 1 or 2 people in them. And I actually urge everybody to do this. Find a streamer that has 1 or 2 people that are only that's the amount of people that are watching, and then go in and try and interact with them and see how they respond. And it's actually a good way to build up friendships with people that you might not otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then I'll go in one and they won't talk. It's literally just them playing a game. And the thing I like about streams is the interaction. It's actually why I pretty much just stream now instead of doing videos, because while I enjoy doing some videos here and there, it's more fun for me to talk to people and interact with people. And I try to make sure that people know what they're getting into when they come to my stream, which is why they all say interactive stream. to let them know that if they talk, I will talk back. Now, I may not respond immediately because I mean, everybody gets caught up in games where you're just so focused on what's going on that you just don't look over at the chat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just I want people to know, hey, if you come here and you want to chat, I'm going to chat back.
Yeah, I think that's a great sentiment. I think it's nice to put in the title description too, just in case, someone is looking through that list of 1,000 people playing Super Mario Odyssey, and you're the one who has the interactive stream logo on there, or not logo, but sticker on there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I've never used it, so I can't say if it helps me or not. But like you said, every time someone comes into the stream and types something, I always try to respond as quickly as I can, just to let them know that, hey, I acknowledge you and I want you to stay. And
Right.
Not everyone will stay. Not everyone will keep talking. A lot of times they'll either lurk or go. But it's nice to let them know that, hey, I do see you and I am willing to talk to you. There's a lot of people out there who they think that they're gonna grow on YouTube by just keeping to themselves, and if someone comes to a live stream, always picking fights with people, or just making sure that their chat is only pro their channel and stuff like that. And it's
Right.
not a healthy way to grow. And even if you do get up to those those numbers that you want to be up to, how long are you gonna, like, how much are you actually gonna grow when the people run out of patience for what you're doing?
Now, I eventually, at the same time, plan on I want to do like a top 5 or a top 10 tips for new streamers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a couple. If you don't mind, I would like to go over real quick.
Sure,
Hopefully
yeah,
this
no
isn't
problem.
running too long.
First off, though, I want to know what your number one pick for Super Smash Brothers characters. Which Super Smash Brothers Ultimate character is your number one that you want in the game
Oh, that I want?
for DLC?
It's a tie. It is a tie. I would be happy if one of them got in. One of them is very unlikely, and the other one's kind of unlikely. And no, I'm not going to say Goku. For all of you Dragon Ball Z fans that, for whatever reason, want an anime character in your video game fighting character game.
Ryu's in there. That's close enough.
Right. I want Banjo-Kazooie in there.
Yes.
I think of all characters that have not been put in it, they are the most deserved characters. They were a staple. I won't say the staple, a staple, especially on the N64 for sales.
My favorite game on there.
My favorite game actually is probably a three-way tie. My favorite game on N64.
It's actually my favorite game of all time.
I thought Donkey Kong 64 was.
Well, you see, the problem with Donkey Kong is, like, the field of view isn't too good in that game, especially when you're playing on.
Terrible.
Controls are bad, and also you had to kind of go back to the barrel and change your character. If it was just a little bit more streamlined, I think I'd like it a little bit more. But Banjo-Kazooie 64 is my top. It has been my top game for since I played it when I was a kid. I
It was
can't
a good
stop.
game.
Yeah, it's
Banjo-Tooie was just as good too. Like I liked the series as a whole.
Yeah, I still like
Until Nuts and
64
Bolts.
better. We don't talk about nuts and bolts here.
Rare.
Yeah.
They were the ones that did it, right? Yeah, they cannonballed that one. I would like Banjo-Kazooie. Another character that I really want is Goemon from Mystical Ninja. I think first off, that game series in general is very underrated, especially the N64 3D iteration of it, which is my favorite N64 game. Even though I haven't beaten it. It's really hard towards the end. The only other character, and it's a character that I have grown to love over years. I would love to see Gex from Gex Enter the Gecko as a fighter.
That would be amazing.
Enter the Gecko and then Gex 3, both of them on the N64, which was where I played both of them. Amazing games. And the puns from movies and quotes. And Donner, party of 7 or 6 or 7. I can't remember what he says. Oh, no, Donner, party of 5 is like my favorite line in that entire game.
So you had your streamer tips. Let's go over those. Yeah.
A couple tips, just a couple. First off, if any of you are getting into this expecting money, stop right now. The people that you see making money didn't get into it to make money. They got into it for the love of it, and it developed, and that's why they're where they're at now, making the money that they're making. I've seen a couple instances where people have come in specifically just to make money, and it's not worked out for them and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something you have to do as a passion, not for profit. And I definitely urge that for anybody that's thinking about doing something like this. Another tip, grow some thick skin, please. You're going to have so many people come in and tell you, oh, you suck, you this, you that. And you just got to brush them off and keep moving. That's what your mods are for. They can just kick them out. And it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's and lastly, and I touched on this during my House Flipper stream a week ago, 2 weeks ago, depending on when you air this. You're going to start falling into circles where people are going to start asking for support. Where you're going to befriend people that are like, hey, if you support me, I'll support you. Try and stay away from things like that. Support the things that you feel are things you like, because if anything, if you support the things that you like, it's going to show those streamers what you don't like, and it might urge them to change what they're doing. If you go through and like every single video, you go through and watch fully every single video, yeah, you might be helping them initially as far as getting their view count and stuff like that, but you're not going to help them in the long run as far as keeping people wanting to come in and watch what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell people all that all the time, especially with me. If somebody doesn't like a game that I'm playing, I mean, if you're sticking around for the commentary, that's one thing, or just to talk to me, I get that. But don't stick around and watch the game if it's something you don't like. It's I hate seeing friendships fall apart when all of a sudden somebody's like, "Hey, I don't think you're supporting me," and it's like the other person's like, I'm supporting the things that I like from you, and then it turns into a huge fight. I've seen it. I've seen it happen in 2 or 3 of the circles I've been in, and yeah, that's the big one for me. Support what you like, don't support what you don't, or don't support what you don't like.
I get you.
And those are the top 3 tips I could think of right off the top of my head. It'd probably just be a top 5 because
it's sound advice. Sound advice, definitely. I mean, with all the people going around asking for support, and then they jump on your video and they're like, "I'm gonna support you for life," and then they do the same comment on 5 videos in 5 minutes. Like, those are the people who I usually ban from the channel, because it's like, you're not gonna help me. I'm not gonna help you because I know that you're just doing it to get me to help you. It's like, I'd rather just grow organically rather than have. I'd rather have 50 people who actually like my content than 500 people who subscribe because they want support back, or something like that. And I mean, I'm not trying to knock anyone who's on my channel right now. I'm not trying to call anyone out, but if you start doing that kind of stuff, I automatically ban people. It's not something that I need. And right now, I just really, the only thing that matters to me, the thing that matters the most to me, like, this is to me personally, not based on YouTube, not based on anything. I just want people to stick around for a video and watch it and listen to it and actually get something from it. That's why I do podcasts, because I love talking. I love giving information out. But if I see in the analytics that, someone came in, watched for 10 seconds, and then commented like, "I love Grand Theft Auto," and then left, it's like, what are you getting out of this? Like, that just annoys me so much, because it's like, I do a 50-minute podcast with tons of topics on it, and you're there for the opening. Where I say hello. Right. Like, what?
Now, what's funny is I typically, if I'm watching a video, I'll type a comment right when I start watching it, and I'll edit the comment as I go.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
So I don't forget things.
Right. Yeah. If I'm on the phone, I'll do that. But if I'm on the computer, I just leave open the chat box.
Now, as far as I am concerned, for those of you wondering, the reason I do this personally. Now, granted, I would love to get to the point where I'm at least, getting free games here and there for demos. That'd be amazing.
That would be.
But I'm not pushing for that. I do it because I love it. And the biggest thing is, for me, I want, even if there's just one person that comes and says, "You know what? When I watch you stream, it makes my day better."
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what pushes me to keep doing this. It's, I don't care if I ever become rich and famous from it. I don't care even if I make any bit of money from it. I think I've made a total of like $40 streaming. It's and most of that was birthday donations.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care if I make any money from this. Like, I want to touch and impact people in a positive way. Regardless if my name's Depraved Slasher and it's completely oxymoronic or not. Like, that's what matters to me, is changing people's lives for the better. But yes.
All right. Strong words. And lots of good advice. Can't wait for that video. If it comes out before the podcast uploads, I'll definitely put it in the end cards, which will come around in a few minutes on the podcast here. Just want to thank Depraved Slasher? Depraved Slasher for coming on and talking to me about ghosts and games and a whole bunch of things. You can find him on Twitter and YouTube, so those links will be down below. And of course, his YouTube channel will be in the end cards, like I just said. Slasher, is there anything else you want to say before we skedaddle?
Couple quick shout outs. Chrono Crew, love you guys. Reapers, love you guys. My girlfriend, who supports me for whatever reason in this crazy YouTube thing, even though she is not a gamer, but I've gotten her to play a couple games. She's not a gamer by any stretch of the imagination. She's actually been the biggest rock for me during all this. Love her to death. She's a great woman. My kids, who watch me every now and again. That's it. Yemmy, you're amazing.
Well,
Thank you for having me on.
No, man, not a problem. It was a pleasure having you on. Make sure you try out that balut. I hear it's a delicacy. And
I'm going to pass on that, thank you.
All right, well, I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, and this has been the Ferret Business Podcast.